Okay, so I'm gonna go really fast so you can go to the pizza.
So you guys want to take seats, and then we'll take a break in like 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Okay. Nice to be here, first of all. Thanks to Vera and the sponsors. I'm just gonna go really fast through these slides because no one wants to hear, look at slides anyway. So, let me get to know you. How many web developers do we have here? Cool. How many have used 3JS? 3JS? Nope, just a few, right? I don't know if you've gone through the examples of 3JS, but all the examples in 3JS you'll find are mixed examples. The separation of concern in web development traditionally separates logic from events, from presentation, from styling. In 3JS, you get everything. So with that in mind, let's just create a web page.
Can you repeat what did you say about 3JS? What was it?
So if you go to the GitHub repo with 3JS, you'll see a number of examples. I've got a lot of examples, which is great. But all the examples contain everything in one file. So construction of the 3D objects, event handling, styling, it's all there. It's all like one big file, right? So if we were to create a web, just a container, we would do it this way. We would create an element with vanilla.js. You have to click on it. Okay. We would style it. And then we would add it to the DOM. So we do this for every element we want in our web page. Okay, we repeat this over and over again. So the revelation, right? We don't really do that. We use markup and CSS because, why? Because we wanted to do all this. We wanted to iterate, we wanted to prototype fast, we wanted to make it more approachable to web designers. We wanted, first of all, to create a lot of content. We wanted a lot of web pages done fast. So why is WebGl different, right? Why are we used to treating WebGl as a programmer's tool? Why do we want to create 3D content on the web that's only, can only be handled by programmers? This is an example. This is how we create two lights, a directional light and a point light in 3JS. It's like it can be done, but by tradition, web development doesn't work that way. So the real question is, do we really want to start creating WebGl content fast, rapidly, and not be harassed by iteration or modification? Can we do that on the fly? So we already have these tools. We have HTML tags, we have CSS styles, we have awesome JavaScript template engines. My personal favorite being handlebars. So we created kind of like a bridge using jQuery as the basis. Like what jQuery did for JavaScript, we're doing for 3JS. We want to abstract everything that we can do with 3JS, and you just control your web page the way you would do for 2D traditional content. So this is an example. You just create these tags, sorry for the spaces, and you just get that. I'll just move on from the slide. I'll just move on with the slides so we can see the demos. So the one big main complaint is that everything is slow. Everything we're talking about is slow. JavaScript is slow, CSS is slow, and of course, markup is very slow. So this is not really meant for logic. We're not using CSS. We're not using markup for logic. We're just using it for what I mentioned before about the separation of concerns. We deal with logic the way we're supposed to deal with logic. We want markup to actually define the structure. We want styles to define the presentation. So if we go to traditional game development, we use C++, but we don't really use C++ for everything. We've got Lua for scripting. We've got text files, ini files for settings. So this is really not far from what we're already doing in traditional development. So if we say that our graphics engine is WebGl, then we do the comparison of replacing Lua with JavaScript, replacing ini files with markup. And CSS comes as a benefit because we only have hard-coded styling in traditional game development. We don't have the approach of dynamic styling where you can actually modify what you see on a video game. We can do that with CSS. So I feel that this library is just a temporary solution. It's kind of like a polyfill. If we want our browsers to operate that way, we should make our browsers work that way, and so instead of using other libraries. So looking into the future now, if you can keep an open mind. I don't know who knows what Shadow DOM is. So Shadow DOM is what browser vendors use for creating the components, like a video component. It's DOM that's hidden from the actual page that you view. If this opens up for web developers, application developers, it means that we can actually create DOM that's not visible on the page. We can create components, and that markup is actually hidden. If 3JS, which is an awesome schema, an awesome API, if that is integrated as vanilla JS, why do we need the extra 300 kilobytes, which will run actually faster as native JavaScript? So if that happens and the browser vendors start representing 3D elements as tags, then it's pretty much that. So jQuery will start targeting those tags with jQuery methods, and the library is kind of obsolete. So this is the kind of like main takeaway. If we can imagine that as that, which really doesn't make sense if you think about it, why can't we do the same for a 3D environment? That's just the question, I guess. So I can go to the demos if you want to see exactly how this is done. A few demos. So of course, the first thing that you do is you create a skybox. That's the first thing any game developer does. So this is a skybox, but what's more interesting is that the code behind it is just a style. So we include a few libraries, and then all you see here is just done with this. You just create a scene, and then you add a camera, and there's a style on the scene tag that's actually this, and it's actually defining the skybox images. So it's as simple as that. If I wanted to come here and modify this, and instead of blue sky, I can just do stars. If I go here and refresh that, and that terrain tag has a style attached to it, like this, we get this. So you can see how we can easily start making things that are more interesting. And we can just iterate and create prototypes really fast. That's the whole point. If we use that skybox with the stars before, we just put in a cylinder with a texture, and that's it. We just have an Earth kind of scene. And the code for this doesn't really change from what it was before. just a camera and a sphere. And you use data attributes to just define the attributes of the sphere. Now, we are web developers, and we're used to dynamic stuff. I mean, this is really not difficult to be done in any language, but what really distinguishes web developers is that we're all about dynamic, real time. So it really doesn't make sense to create something in a lower, inferior language like JavaScript if you're not going to take advantage of the benefits of JavaScript, which is, real-time manipulation. So starting with a very basic example, which is just 2 circles, right? This means nothing to me. It's just 2 circles, and if you see the example, it's just static. Like 2 spheres and 1 camera, which is fine, but there is no web page that is created with just markup. Everyone is using JavaScript templates. So let's just try to do the same thing here. If I go to the handlebars example, because we are using JavaScript and because we're using tags, it means that all the good things of JavaScript template engines are applicable here. So I've got a sphere template, which is going to be handled by handlebars. And then I'm just going to do the same thing that we would do with a regular tag, just compile the template and then apply it. So I can use handlebar helpers. I don't know if anyone's used them. Again, our setup markup is really, really small. But the thing is, we start with an empty scene like that, because that's what the markup provides us. But then we can execute the handlebar template. So for every time I click the button, I get a new ball. And that's dynamically generated, and we suddenly have a 3D setup that's, dynamic. Again, this means nothing for game development because it's just a demo. But if you take this concept and you apply it in game development rules, which is kind of like creating environments, there's an FPS demo where you can just see cubes on the landscape. But the point is that these are 100 cubes dynamically generated, which means that they weren't really part of the markup. They were generated with a handlebars template. And you can imagine replacing those with trees, and then you get a forest. So it's kind of like the uses are there. It's just that we need to take advantage of the language properly, I guess. I don't know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Can you show us some cool shaders from Vue.js? Any development in shaders?
I'm not active in the development of 3JS. I'm just
So you're
a
just 3J
big
first.
admirer.
Can you show us syntax for defining shaders using your markup?
Shaders. So there's a basic implementation of using textures, which is done in the last example with the boxes. It's done by this style. So you just define a background image. The plugin itself can handle extra additional helpers like shaders, but you include them. You include them like this. So there's a dependence array. When you initialize the library, you pass in external plugins, like in this case, the first-person controls, and you just get to use them. So it tries to be as generic as possible. It doesn't try to tie you into using anything. It just tries to be like someone that takes care of all the ugly scripting for you.
You mentioned that jQuery 3 is polyfill.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a modern browser, can you just use tQuery instead?
Well, there is a big difference there that tQuery is queries on the 3JS object, which is, if that's what you want to do, it's fine, but this is more dealing with markup. Like, it generates markup, but then it controls your 3D scene through markup.
So it's not just for older browser support, it's a polyfill for modern browsers too?
It's a polyfill for the future. So
Good answer.
So we are not really creating fallbacks. It's like WebGl is our bet. We believe in WebGl. At some point, everyone will have WebGl support. So we create this for that.
Have you tried importing the WebGL code generated by something like Adobe's CSS stuff? You play around with that?
Not really, no. And this is kind of like really new. So we're application developers, so we built it for our own benefit, so we can iterate and move faster. So it's kind of relatively new as an open source thing. Yeah.
Have you been following the new web components spec? Because it already solves all of these problems that you mentioned, creating your own custom elements,
Right.
Exposing shadow DOM, templating.
Right.
A lot of these problems, I don't know the support they provide for like the 3D stuff, but a lot of these underlying issues that you mentioned,
Mhm.
and Chrome I think already implements a lot of the web components, APIs, and also the registration platform.
Right, so a web component is like a collection of style sheets and scripts and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
The nature of the component is kind of irrelevant. It can be anything. So ideally,
That's the point, like, so you can make anything, like your own custom element.
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is not really binding you to anything. It's just creating a jQuery environment in 3JS where you can, manipulate a 3D environment through tags. Pretty much. Yeah, sure.
So how about we take a break? Have some pizza.
Okay.
And then keep going, yeah?
Cheers. Thanks.